Ever found yourself trapped in an uncomfortable situation because you couldn't say no? It's a predicament we've all found ourselves in at one point or another. The struggle with no is a universal one, crossing borders, cultures, and age groups. Some might even say it's as ubiquitous as the air we breathe. So why do we find it so hard to utter this tiny two-letter word? Well, for starters, many of us are conditioned from a young age to be agreeable. We're taught that saying yes is polite, that it's the pathway to being liked and accepted. As a result, no becomes this big, scary monster that we dare not unleash, for fear of disappointment or conflict. This struggle often leads to overwhelming commitments and stress. Picture this. You're already swamped at work, but your boss asks you to take on another project. You want to say no, you know you should say no, but the word just doesn't come out. Before you know it, you're working late nights and weekends, compromising your work-life balance. Or perhaps you're in a relationship where you constantly feel the need to please your partner, foregoing your own needs and desires. Or maybe you're at a social gathering and you're offered a drink you don't really want, but you take it anyway to avoid being the party pooper. These scenarios all underscore the same issue, the inability to say no when it matters most. It's a small word, but it carries a lot of weight. It's a boundary setter, a commitment reducer, a stress alleviator. But here's the thing, saying no doesn't make you selfish or rude. It simply means you're prioritizing your own needs and boundaries. And that's not just okay, it's necessary. But what if we told you that saying no is not only necessary, but can also be empowering? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the power of no and how you can harness it to regain control of your life. Let's dive into the story of Tim, a person just like you and me, who learned the importance of saying no. Tim was a hard-working professional, the kind of person who'd always go the extra mile. He was the go-to guy for any task, no matter how big or small. His co-workers admired his dedication, and his bosses appreciated his willingness to take on any challenge. But there was a problem. Tim couldn't say no. His inability to refuse extra work resulted in a workload that was nothing short of overwhelming. He was always swamped, juggling a myriad of tasks that left him with little time for anything else. His work-life balance was in shambles. He'd often stay late at the office, sacrificing precious time that he could have spent with his family or pursuing his hobbies. In addition to the toll on his personal life, Tim's health started to suffer as well. His stress levels were through the roof, and the lack of time for self-care meant that he was constantly running on empty. His relationships also began to strain due to his constant preoccupation with work. He was physically present but mentally distant, always thinking about the next task on his never-ending to-do list. Then one day, a turning point arrived. Tim's health took a serious hit. He collapsed from exhaustion and was rushed to the hospital. It was a wake-up call, a stark reminder that he was not invincible and that his body and mind needed rest. It was then that Tim decided to make a change. He decided to start saying no. Tim's transition wasn't easy. Saying no felt unnatural, even uncomfortable, but he was determined. He started small, declining extra tasks that weren't part of his job description. He set clear boundaries and stuck to them. He learned to prioritize his tasks and delegate when necessary. Slowly but surely, things started to change. His workload became more manageable. He had time to relax and recharge. His health improved, his stress levels dropped, and his relationships began to mend. He was happier, healthier, and more productive. Tim's journey wasn't just about learning to say no. It was about understanding that setting boundaries is not selfish, but necessary for our mental and physical health. It was about realizing that saying yes to everything is, in fact, saying no to many other important aspects of life. Tim's story shows us that saying no is not a sign of weakness, but a step towards maintaining our mental and physical health. Saying no is not just about refusing something. It's about setting boundaries and prioritizing our needs. Now let's explore the power of no. When used correctly, it's a tool that can transform your life in ways you may never have imagined. One of the most immediate benefits of saying no is better time management. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and saying no gives you the power to decide how you spend those hours. Imagine you're swamped with work, and a colleague asks you to take on an additional project. By saying no, you're essentially allocating more time to the tasks already on your plate, ensuring quality work and timely delivery. Next, we have stress reduction. Saying yes to everything can quickly lead to burnout. When we overcommit, we stretch ourselves too thin, and the stress that follows can be overwhelming. In contrast, saying no allows us to focus on fewer tasks, reducing the pressure and enabling us to perform at our best. Consider a scenario where you're invited to a social gathering, but you're feeling exhausted. Politely declining gives you the chance to recharge, reducing stress and promoting better mental health. Lastly, saying no can lead to improved relationships. This might seem counterintuitive, but hear me out. When we say yes out of obligation, it can breed resentment over time. In contrast, by being honest about our limitations, we foster respect and understanding. For example, if a friend asks for a substantial loan that you're uncomfortable giving, saying no can prevent potential strain on your friendship. It might be difficult initially, but honesty often strengthens relationships in the long run. In conclusion, the power of no lies in its ability to create space. Space for better time management, reduced stress, and improved relationships. It's about making conscious choices, respecting your own needs, and acknowledging that you can't do everything for everyone. Remember, every no is a yes to something else that matters more to you. But how do you say no without hurting people's feelings? This is a question that often leaves us tongue-tied. It's a delicate balancing act, isn't it? But with a few simple strategies, we can master this art. Firstly, remember that respect is key. When you need to decline, do so with grace and kindness. Use phrases like, "I appreciate your offer, but," or "I understand why you're asking, however." This approach shows that you respect the other person's request and have given it thoughtful consideration. Secondly, be firm yet gentle. Once you've made your decision, stick to it. Wavering or showing uncertainty can give the other person hope that they might be able to change your mind. Convey your decision confidently, but be careful not to come across as harsh or dismissive. Thirdly, don't forget the power of explanation. When appropriate, provide a brief reason for your refusal. You don't need to share an entire backstory, just enough to show that your no is not arbitrary. For instance, "I appreciate your invitation, but I have a prior commitment." Lastly, if possible, offer an alternative. This could be a different time, a different task, or even suggesting someone else who might be able to help. Offering an alternative not only softens the blow of your no, but it also shows your willingness to be helpful. For example, "I can't assist with the project this week, but I'd be happy to help next week." Remember, saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It simply means you're taking charge of your time and energy. It's about setting boundaries and prioritizing your needs. And while it might feel uncomfortable at first, with practice, it becomes easier. So, the next time you're faced with a request you can't or don't want to fulfill, take a deep breath and remember these tips. Mastering the art of saying no can transform your life in ways you can't imagine. Let's quickly revisit what we've learned today. We started by understanding the inner struggle many of us face when it comes to uttering that simple yet powerful word, no. We then delved into the tale of Tim, a vivid illustration of the emotional turmoil and the subsequent liberation that can come from learning to say no. We discovered the immense power that no holds, its ability to free us from unnecessary commitments and open doors to more fulfilling engagements. It's not a rejection, but a declaration of our values and boundaries. Finally, we explored the art of saying no politely. We learned that it's not about being rude or dismissive, but about expressing our needs and limitations respectfully. It's about standing our ground while maintaining our relationships. Remember, it's okay to say no. It's your right, and it's a sign of self-respect and self-care. So next time you find yourself in a tricky situation, don't hesitate to use your power of no.